So we have Val here. She is the president of CVL, Dr. Valerie Hill, and today she's going to speak to us about the virtual digital citizenship exhibit. So go ahead and take it away, Val.
Great. Can everybody hear me okay? If you type a Y in the text chat as I get started. I think it's great to be talking about digital citizenship when we just recently saw a little example of the need for it. As she just told you, my name is Dr. Valerie Hill. I'm Valibrarian in Virtual Worlds, and I'd like to welcome you to my VCARA presentation for 2017, which is an overview of a special exhibit that's currently on display in the Community Virtual Library. And the name of our exhibit is Virtual Digital Citizenship. So hopefully you're seeing my slides change. This slide should say, why digital citizenship? If you're seeing the right slide, would you type a Y just so I can make sure my slides are working? Why digital citizenship? We all now live in digital culture, and we have access to information right on our mobile devices 24/7. Even young children are today using technology daily, and we just saw examples of the virtual reality headsets, some head-mounted displays. You see I'm in this picture wearing one. I think we are really hoping that that the developers will begin to use them for education, not just for killing zombies and for swimming with dolphins, but to really get inside educational spaces. So, but these young children and their parents, they are posting things online nonstop, creating digital footprints, as we all know. Some digital footprints are even left before birth as parents, upload sonograms. So whether or not we have an avatar and we are in a virtual world like we are right now, whether it's morning, noon, or evening, wherever you are, we all live in virtual worlds. We are all digital citizens. But do we really understand what that means? So that's why we set up a digital citizenship exhibit just next door over at the Community Virtual Library. Digital citizenship is now a personal responsibility. We are personally responsible for the information intake that we bring into our minds every day on these devices we have access. For what we create and for what we curate, we are personally responsible for how we represent ourselves. Are we authentic, and are we trustworthy? We're personally responsible for, as I said, what we intake, how we evaluate what we intake, the authority, the accuracy of whatever information we are bringing into our lives. We're now personally responsible for how we collaborate and how we interact with other people. We're responsible for respecting people and their intellectual property. We're responsible for how we use our resources, and that means how we balance our time in all of these spaces, whether they're physical or virtual or augmented. And a lot of people are thinking we need to sometimes put down our phones. There's a place where we should not have our phones with us 24/7. We're personally responsible for remaining open to new ideas, realizing the dangers of information silos, personal dashboards, and curated communities of shared interest. If you only follow people who think exactly like you do, how are you going to learn? So all of these things are part of digital citizenship. So our current digital citizenship display is on display from March, it opened in March, through August of 2017, and we're sharing a wide variety of perspectives on the topic. We have artists that are showing visual metaphors for privacy and cybersecurity. We have health information literacy. Can we trust the health information we find on the web, for example? We have one exhibit on political activism and how open source Creative Commons tools can be utilized for political activism. So it's really a wide group of perspective on digital citizenship. One of our presenters has as you can see, the one here on the left is Digital Citizenship for Kids, and that's Marie Vans. She's sharing ways for educators to promote digital citizenship for youngsters. And you can see the middle presentation here is an artist's perspective on what would the world be like if we do not care about digital citizenship? What kind of dystopian future might we have? And then the one on the right is a presentation from the Second Life Bar Association. And this one was on the rights and responsibilities of avatars and artificial intelligence. And that presenter recently brought an AI robot to the community virtual library, and we all got to interact with questions to this robot. And if that sounds interesting, we're going to share another session on that this summer, so stay tuned for that. One of our presenters talked to us about fake news and put up a library guide to help us think about how to evaluate what is fake news and how can we be informed and not fall for just everything that comes our way. It's sort of been a buzzword this year, the fake news. We're going to be sharing more presentations on these different topics that we have at our exhibit. So if you're not part of the Second Life Library 2.0 group, you might want to join that, or the Google group is called Metaverse Libraries. So you can find out about more presentations that are coming up on these topics. Another one of the presentations I really enjoyed at our exhibit was on terms of service, because it illustrated, and that's the one here on the left, it illustrated how chaotic it can be to access all these apps that we come across online or on our devices, and we never really read all of the long legalese language of the terms of service, because you would have to be a lawyer to really even understand it. So we simply click I agree, and we justify not reading that all the complex language, because we tell ourselves, oh, all of my colleagues and my personal friends, they use this app, it certainly must be okay. And so, it's just, this is just kind of making us aware of the fact that we often don't really think about what we're doing and how we're giving away our privacy when we don't even understand the terms of agreement and the terms of service. There's also the one on the right that is a presentation on digital citizenship across the globe through a language village class. And this presenter will be sharing at the SL MOOC this summer. So if you're interested in the SL MOOC, you might be looking for that coming in June. The Community Virtual Library will share our Digital Citizenship exhibit at the MOOC on June 11th at noon Second Life time. So there's lots of opportunities to come and see some of the exhibits that I'm talking about today. Inspiration Island shared a bit about their whole brain activities at our exhibit to promote digital citizenship. We also had a presentation on authenticity and trust through your avatar's identity, and that's Zinnia's presentation, you may recognize here. We also had Ewan Bonham sharing ways to relax through virtual meditation. And, when you talk about digital citizenship and the need to balance your virtual and your physical life, amazingly, Ewan shared ways to relax through sound and color and a shared sense of presence that you really can't find elsewhere, but you can access all of that through in a virtual world. So I think digital citizens learn in such unique ways, and you can see on the far right there, the Flash Fiction Center, it showed a way that new literacy skills can be shared through for digital citizens. So, literacy beyond the quick social media scrolling that is often simply disposable media. One of the most fascinating presentations at our exhibit was on digital citizenship and information access in prison. So if you come to the exhibit on the upper floor, on the upper deck, you'll see one that looks like prison bars, and you can enter a prison cell. And it really starts you thinking about information access for people who might be in prison. At our last Digital Citizenship live tour, ironically, we met some really bad digital citizens who surprised me with some obscene language, and I think we might have had a little brief moment of that here this evening as well. I was so caught off guard by these people that came that evening that I completely forgot how to ban someone or eject them, and I simply blocked them when they were speaking in this foul language at the exhibit, which was several educators were still at the tour. And my heart started pounding because I remembered a librarian years ago at a class teaching me what to do about griefing and reminding me that, we're in a virtual world. If everything gets really crazy and you're offended or someone's trying to frighten you, you can always simply log out. didn't want to log out and leave these educators at the, and be intimidated by these griefers. So I calmly just explained the purpose of the exhibit and explained that we were in an educational sim talking about digital citizenship, and I kept on going with the tour. Later, I realized that just blocking their obscene language, and I see someone saying, when does freedom of speech become griefing? Well, I think obscenity in a context of an educational setting, when we are trying to let educators utilize this kind of an environment, they're immediately going to be turned off and say, oh, that's not an educational environment. And it was pretty obscene language that was happening at the tour. Anyway, I just went on with digital citizenship because they were a perfect example of the need for digital citizenship. And so I continued. And because the tour was almost over, I think it really it was an example of why there are so many reasons that we need the next generation to understand what it means to be a good digital citizen. And so I think the griefers actually started to listen, and they kind of were looking at some of the things that we had going on at the exhibit. Two of my colleagues did report the incident because actually this was actually the first time that I'd ever had that kind of profanity, and that's why I was kind of caught off guard. Because normally at a virtual world library, you don't really find that many people who come wanting to hide behind anonymity and simply intimidate others with profanity. But so I was kind of just caught off guard. So I continued with, and I was really glad that I was able to continue the tour, even though it was at the tail end of the tour and there were only a few people still there. It was getting late in the evening. But several of the educators contacted me later to say that it was certainly handled well, and that they did see that the griefers actually were interested in what was going on. So I think, we need to think about that, about who it is. We don't know if it might be some teenagers just, clowning around. We don't know what that means. But it certainly does show that digital citizenship is a need in our culture. And then this next shot, you can see Dahlia, she is an avatar who I know from several educational communities. She took this selfie shot with one of the griefers holding up a sign about Hitler wrote a book. And Hitler certainly did write a book. We all realize that. But I think it was meant to be something else here. I think it was simply someone trying to put down the whole idea of digital citizenship, perhaps, or I'm not really sure what was going on. But I think that we all need to think about how digital citizenship needs to be taught from a really young age. And so sharing ways to teach that, like commonsensemedia.org, a great resource for families, young children, and educators as well as parents, to start kids out early understanding digital citizenship, what it means, and how we're all personally responsible for that. And to take ourselves into a world like this and go and disrupt is certainly something that we all can agree is not a really good thing to do. So if you're interested, you can join our Second Life Library 2.0 group. We still have several presentation spaces available at our Digital Citizenship exhibit. And we're also thinking of building a museum on digital citizenship in Kitely. So later, when you hear about the Metaverse Libraries group, contact me if you're interested in digital citizenship and have anything you might want to contribute, or you might want your communities to be involved in with our library community. And I think I'm done.